the cast of the future is of my company is coming from many different countries, and we chose to speak English because it's a language that everybody can speak more or less. Okay, not great either. We would prefer not necessarily to have English, but it's somehow it's a shortcut. No? So yeah, I mean sometimes you don't understand everything. For example, I'm working with a Japanese dancer since Miki Joshi. She's one of my oldest members of the company. We're working together since 2009. And when she got in the company, she didn't know English very well. And she used a translator. But I knew that she would understand me eventually, and she did, you know. And I think like that also happens, you know, it does happen that through a physicality people get what you need, but also more like a sense of group work, you know, that you kind of like sense what the director wants. It's something very, very abstract in a way, but it works. You know, when I started working with Miki, I knew that her English was not great, and also I speak very fast and I have a very strong accent. But somehow, I mean, I'm always surprised that they understand me in general. You know, when I speak and I hear myself in recordings, in the rehearsals I speak very fast, and I had no idea how they do understand me. But even if they don't understand me, what they do is really good, you know. So sometimes I think that from the misunderstanding, things happen. It happened to many dancers, that when they got to the company, we couldn't communicate. There was a dancer from Hungary who didn't speak any English and no German, and we worked with a translator at the beginning. And now he speaks perfect English, but you know, anyway, he was great in the first production where he didn't understand, he kind of fit himself. I think dancers have a special way of understanding the situation and reading what should be done, basically, you know, and then through improvisations. I mean, I think people can find a common language, but you know, like the dancers have an intelligence of understanding a very concrete situation without language. Sometimes that it's the body, but it's also something cognitive. No, I mean, I think basically art is a mediation in itself. No, I mean, when people works in art, they try to convey some kind of message. I mean, even if there is no message, when people say there is no message, there is a message. The fact that people is experiencing an artwork of any kind, you know, I think from performance to something, an installation or theater, there is a certain communion with the object, the situation, the installation, and the person who's watching it, you know. So in that sense, there is a mediation of something that is going through the artist and the person who receives it, no? Theater, it is I mean, especially theater, because, you know, you have text, and in my work you have dance, you have text, you have music, and I work within all these different disciplines. And also I work with improvisation. I work in a very collaborative way, so that's why I think, you know, I mediate within these members of the company and artists, and, you know, everybody is, I mean, there's a dialogue between everybody, basically. It's a constant dialogue within the rehearsals and within the music. But everybody, for example, I mean, Robert Lippok, who is one of the composer of this, and also the band with the musicians, were like, through improvisations, they also generate situations in which things happen, you know. So the music also in itself, in the way we work, it sort of opens up places, you know, that generates new material and also ideas for me. So I think everything opens the door for everybody. My work is very process-oriented, so everything is, I mean, I come with an idea and some text sometimes, you know, but a lot of it happens through the process, because with the body, it's difficult to be literal. You don't want to be literal. It's always very abstract. So you think like, okay, how I'm gonna dance the future is strange, no? So I mean, you need a lot of things that happen that you don't know what they are. This is always the magic of work. When I started to work on this piece, I mean, I realized that the title was a little bit constraining. You don't really want to, because it's really big. Like the whole piece is a lot about uncertainty, but also about like what is the exact definition of the future, and how we perceive time, and which kind of, I think we all live in a sort of Newtonian conception of time in which things are linear and we move on. It's very difficult to think in like, okay, there's many things happening at the same time, but they are. These notions are circulating about what is exactly the idea of the future, and this indeterminacy, what is not determinate, which is like indeterminacy principle, which is part of quantum physics. Something could be not here, not there, but in two places at the same time. So this a lot of like philosophical and physical ideas of physics, you know, run around in the piece. You know, they're like, it's not really even this topic actually, because I think like unfortunately it's repetitive, you know. So I think it's more like going in circles, you know. I mean, there is utopias, and then come this, you know, come dystopia, and then utopia. You know, it's a bit like, you know, what the piece talks about is that there is really like circular, there is circular ways in which things happen. It doesn't really talk only about that, but these situations that you see during the show, that when we refer to the future, then suddenly we're coming back to the past, and sometimes in order to, especially in many ways of producing art, because the system of production became so accelerated because of lack of foundings and time for artists to work, and to have time to wander around and be bohemian, because they had to pay rent, which is extremely high, and so there's a lot of romanticism that other decades is like is full of compromises, and basically there is this tendency of going back to whatever was successful in arts, especially in pop music. Somehow we kind of live in some kind of anachronism, that it's not the past, it's not the future, it's like somewhere. My performances are quite baroque. There's a lot of things happening at the same time. I started, decided for slower beginning in the show that people has the time to get in, but in general during the show there's a lot of information, and it's a lot. It's a bit of my thing. There is a lot of information overkill and composition overkill, and it's quite a lot, So, and it's for a while. So I think, what is important, I think, is like somehow like to enter in some kind of sense space in which you sort of receive, and sometimes if you don't get everything, it doesn't matter. I think when people relax what's happening and they don't try to understand everything or like follow everything, then many things can come in, in a more, sometimes people get sense because they want to just follow everything, and sometimes it happens that they can follow everything. I think it depends on the attention span that every individual has, and also the capacity of concentrating, but I think, like if you just also, you don't have to concentrate, you can also receive, and it's a lot you will get also, and also, luckily, the piece has humor and has amazing dancers. I'm very, very proud of the people I work with. I'm so proud to work with them, actually, and that they want to work with me, so I really enjoy watching them. It sounds biased, and it is, but somehow I don't want to create borders between the disciplines, because, for example, like what I really don't like in my work, circus dramaturgy, in which everything is separate, I like that everything it has a dialogue between each other all the time. It's like an expandable situation where all these things leap, and negotiate with each other. So, of course, there's sections which are like very much text-based, and for example, there's a section that is quoted in a sitcom. One of the things I do in my work is taking situations, formats that people have seen millions of times, which work on repetition. For example, sitcoms always have like a situation where there's a living room and a door, and people come in and out, and there's like this very, very like kind of staccato dialogue sometimes, and I use those very recognizable formats to fill them in with text which is much more complicated, about, a reflection on quantum physics and the militarization of quantum physics and the nuclear bomb, basically. So it's not necessarily, you're not going to see that in a sitcom. So basically I take things that belong to very different words and put them together to kind of open up a new way of perceiving them. And I think sometimes, because if you would put it like, for me, when things are so discursive, if you put it in a very straight way, you become like a teacher who's trying to explain you something. And in this way, it's a sort of like present what the text is saying, it's a kind of working on a loop, and things are repeating, and characters are changing, but it's the same situation happening over and over and again with different texts, but you still have to, it starts to become really absurd and comical. And I think somehow the use of humor also in a way that is very strangely misplaced, that it's not like a usual joke. It also allows you to kind of get text which can be very complicated, So I do use these kind of artifacts in terms of like putting text in places which is really strange to have them, So this is something I enjoy doing very much, because I'm not really much a fan of like naturalistic theater. For me, I cannot do it. I don't know. I would be terrible doing it. So, I try to find my way in which that works. From my way of expression. Yeah. When I look at the program, I feel very pleased to be in the festival, because I really like the artists, and I'm a big fan of Marlene Monteiro Freitas, and I really like Serge Coulibaly, and I like very much Marina Pensotti, and I don't know Sergio Blanco, but and other names that they are in the I'm intrigued by the other names that I don't know, and I'm intrigued to. I mean, I never saw Christiane Chataille, but I think I think probably I read so much about her work, and I think it's wonderful. So I mean, it's somebody that I already admire because of the way she works. I think it's really great. I feel very honored to be part of it. Basically, I feel like I've been among these artists, which I think are great. So. It's a very post-traumatic thing, no? I mean, I didn't invent it, no? I mean, it's something that happened, throughout the 80s and 90s, and basically, you kind of like try to sort of evolve from that in your own form. When I when I moved to Amsterdam, I didn't really knew much of theater or dance in Europe. I only knew Pina Bausch and Matzek. Not many things were in Argentina. There was no internet, so you were like, maybe you saw something on TV, but Europe was, I had no idea what was going on. So, and I arrived to Amsterdam. I also didn't know anybody. So they have a very good theater institute, and they have a video library, which was great. So that was my university in a way. I was going every day to watch videos because I was like, I could not believe that there was all this material, and I could just sit and watch it in a room. And they all VCRs, they were putting it for you, and you just sat there and you watch it. Yeah, it was really wonderful, and I learned. It started to also ignite my curiosity for other forms, and also for more text-based work, but also more like in the performance side, So I saw some works of the Wooster group, there was somebody they had a collection. So it was very rare to find videos from them. I also saw them live in Frankfurt, and my work has nothing to do with them at all, but all these things inspire. I mean, also I was inspired by Merce Cunningham, and my work is the most further away you can run away from Cunningham. But there is a thing because he was the person who decentralized the stage, who stopped working on proscenium-based work, and it was that to work more in the periphery. And this is something that I do a lot. So I think all these things impact your work, and your life impacts your work basically. So it's like how you live and how your life goes on is what impacts what you're going to be doing. I mean, it reflects also of all these inspirations you get. I mean, a lot of it's art, and many of things are just life, what you've been doing in your life, or people you've been meeting, people who inspire you, books you read, it all comes together somehow. So. For me, the present is like the moment that I'm trying to figure out if I am happy doing what I'm doing, if I really want to go on this way. I mean, it's basically the questioning. I'm always questioning myself, So for me, it's a place of a lot of anxiety as well, because, yeah, I mean, the future, if you think in something that unfolds from the present in this sort of linear way, is becoming quite uncertain in many ways. It's also a product of our work as humans. We seem not to get that we're repeating everything. We really do live in a loop, So, I mean, and it's not really many signs that we really learn anything from us, from history, from anything. So, yeah, it's a moment, I have a 13-year-old, and for me, that's the most important, to just hold the present for him in which something might be possible in the future. So, but also his own person, But yeah, you feel like now you feel responsible a little bit, I mean, about these people who are living in this planet, I mean, and how. So, yeah, that's the present to think about, not to destroy more, basically.